Alrighty, so I didn't expect another part of this freaking drama to come out so quick, but at the same time, I'm gonna make another video tonight because I feel like I'm cheating you guys out of good Bed Wars content, so don't worry, there will be a Bed Wars video tonight. It just may come out a bit later. But as you heard and looked at the title, there's another part of this drama in the Katie Bugs and GeorgeNotFound saga, and oh boy, this one is a real doozy. Now, before I get into all this and read it, I usually give my commentary and thoughts on everything. Sorry about that. After I read everything. But because this is the chunk of the video and this is everything that matters, I'm going to go over it as I read it. Also, it would take a lot longer for me to read through the entire thing first and then give my thoughts. It would be like a 30-minute video, and I'm trying not to waste your time here, so I'm just going to read through it and give my thoughts about everything as we go through the video. For now, this is what I have to say. He admitted to touching me, that I was drunk, and that I verbally didn't consent. In my mind, the conversation is over. He said silence does not equal consent. Yet, he never got a verbal confirmation from me. Chose to move in a sexual act on the couch where everyone was hanging out without asking. I don't know how those two facts coexist. How can I consent when there was no question? How can I consent when drunk? I feel like even if you're drunk and you can still sense in your body when something is going on, and you still have the moral compass, even if it's not all the way there, to question if George is making moves that feel non-normal or non-natural. I mean, come on. Like, I feel like that's a little obvious. Like, you could obviously back away and be like, I mean, I'm basically going off of movies here because, you know, I haven't had an experience like this in real life. I try to keep myself clean. But I feel like you could make an argument to say that, like, oh, you could have backed away. Like, I'm backing away from my mic right now. I could back away and run the frick away, but I'm coming back in the frame now. I think it's very honest, and the two facts coexisting, I mean, a sexual act on the couch, I mean, I feel like that's the first time I've ever heard her say that. I know it's been SA, which, you know what that means, internet, but I feel like, I don't know. These two facts coexisting together. Anyways, let's continue. I prepared proof on the idea that he wouldn't admit to it. That's a strange point, because if I remember correctly, in your Discord server last night, you said you weren't going to provide any more proof because of the petty drama that would come out of this. It's funny now that you make these entire claims and say, hey, internet, I'm going to give you proof today, even though yesterday I said that I would not give you proof because, believe me, because you're supposed to believe the victims. Very funny. He would deny touching me or being there, but he admitted it, that I was drunk and that he touched me in front of everyone. I'm glad George admitted that she was drunk before the party, and that was an extremely smart move if true, because it basically clears the thing, because there was the whole theory on Twitter of him going around giving alcohol to a minor, and if she was drunk before the party and she was 18, then, you know, I mean, it's not his fault, because he already thought she was drunk. He already thought she was 21, which we're going to get into the wristband thing later, because I feel like that plays a very important role in what George knew. And like we're going to go back to last night, he said also, like, hey, I thought she was 21 because, hey, everybody we're hanging out with is also 21 and older, so it just kind of makes sense. That I never said yes, nor did ask, but I'm still asked for a response, proof, and explanations. I feel like that's just necessary. Like, it's not petty drama. This is serious stuff. There's 10 million subscriber YouTuber here involved, and I think Katie Bucks has like 500k, a million, somewhere in there total. So this is very, very big. Frankly, I think it is freaking insane. If you still need more after hearing him admit those two simple facts, then nothing I can say is going to change his mind. But here it is anyway. Addressing the stream. As far as the iMessages he showed outside of Insta DMs, and here's the thing, I have seen zit for Insta DMs from, but it's just a generalization here. I've seen zit from both Katie and GeorgeNotFound. So these Instagram DMs that they keep talking about, I don't think anywhere on the internet have I seen these DMs before. So, I mean, I just don't know. All the proof with him showing a group chat he wasn't even in, showing messages from my friends, which isn't me. The only message after showing a response from me was when we all asked about the drinking game we played. That was after we played it on the first night, the night where nothing happened. I liked the game, and I wanted to play it with other friends at the convention, so I asked for the name. I don't know how it's relevant to anything. I think the drinking game is a little bit of an important thing because it basically possibly clears his name on, you know, trying to provide alcohol to a minor. That definitely is important because, you know, you're still 18, you're not 21, so you're still under legal age of drinking laws, and at least in America, which this is where it's happened, and that's where a lot of people are like, I saw a lot of, like, UK people, like Blissolic or whatever, they were saying, like, oh, it's 18, who gives a rear end about it, but it's in America, so it's 21, so chill. Why I went back? Because my friends wanted to, and I went with them everywhere they went that trip. I would also like to clear things up when this all happened. When I went back, in all caps, as if we didn't know, nothing happened the first night, which we weren't denying anyways. Something I also did not admit at first because it was embarrassing and I thought it was irrelevant, but the second night, another reason I was willing to go back was I heard a different creator who was in the room I wanted to meet, but when I found out they left an hour earlier, I was already in the Uber. I had forgotten until this, looking back at text where I said this to a friend a day earlier. So obviously the reason she went back was to meet George. I'm assuming it's George here. It could also be Dream. You know, there's a lot of other content creators in the room. I would take the chance to meet Dream or George. I mean, back then, I mean, it's not a priority now, but, you know, getting to meet any bigger YouTubers is obviously like a big deal, especially if you get the opportunity to. But I feel like that's also your own consent right there. You said you wanted to go meet them and go back, and you're making it sound like a little bit too, and that, like, yes, you went back because you're with your friends, but I mean, and if nothing uncomfortable happened, I don't see the problem with that. But I mean, now that this has happened, it sounds a little to me like you just don't care, and you went back because you wanted to. Because this video is so long, I'm not going to take the time to read any of these messages unless they are relevant. So I'm going to continue. Insta DMs. There we go. Finally, I see the Insta DMs. They were all fine, like I said in my stream. I did have my age in my bio, like it says to this day. The messages were nothing insane, just banner, like I said. I admitted to messaging him after. I never hid the fact. I was still considering myself lucky for what had happened to me. And I think that's something else too. She kind of was like, a lot of people with these pedo situations definitely get hooked into falsehoods, and I see this all the time. People get hooked into falsehoods on this, thinking that, oh, they got lucky because they were one of the few people that had this close of an interaction with a creator like this, and then they refuse to come out. Now, there's been a lot of times where it was true that these people got tricked, or they got or they kept guilting themselves to come out about it because, oh, they're a bigger creator who would believe me, or, oh, they're a bigger creator, I should consider myself lucky that I got to do this. But I mean, I don't know anymore. I was still, even if I was uncomfortable and I didn't ask for it, I was hating myself around now, thinking I was ungrateful, but as you can see, nothing insane or proof-worthy is being said. So now, let's read some of these DMs. I hope you got, and this was on June 24th at 9:36 a.m. I hope you got lost. I hope your elevator freaking plummeted as soon as you stepped in. I'm so sorry for the bad news, but it didn't, and I made it back so easily, and I slept well. Try harder to die next time. So you better start being nice to me. If you come into Dream's hotel again tonight, I'm shooting your leg, so don't. Oh, awkward. I'm in his room right now. You're not gonna do crap. I'll throw a wet female thing at you. It worked. Thank God. Never message me again. Can't believe you already missed me. Why are you so busy? Surely you have time for me. You're not a popular guy. I have time, just not for you. And if I was a popular guy, ask any girl you know. I don't know girls. Why don't you have time for me, WTF? And then I can tell. Again, I felt lucky to be talking to a verified account, someone famous. And I'm pretty sure even at this time, Katie had a content pass. She was also famous. Now, obviously, I'm not famous, so I don't know the mental capacity of this, but I feel like her saying that she was talking to a more famous individual than her, yeah, sure, you're talking to someone famous, but at the same token, you're also famous too, so it's not like a fan interacting with a creator, it's more of a creator interacting with a creator in that sense, and that completely changes the landscape of everything. I was uncomfortable with what happened, but trying to swallow it and suck it up so I didn't have to acknowledge or accept it. Which I guess I could see, like, you wouldn't want to swallow it, especially if you knew you were in the wrong. Although our texting ended a month after, I can see why people find me at fault, but the process of someone who went through all of what I have is a very unique experience, which is why I understand it seems so stupid. Only so many people have been in it to understand it. I feel like the reason people do not believe you, Katie, is because your story just doesn't add up at some points. Like, where was this evidence 2 days ago when you made your stream? I mean, Shelby did a better job than you ever could have done with that stream. Like, if you were ready to come out with your evidence and stick to your points and not contradict your points like Shelby had done, also, your story might make a little bit more sense. But as of right now, these are the first times I've seen these DMs ever. Like, at all. Plus, if you are going to try and disprove things, why not present some evidence? What's the point of proof? Like, we should not... I understand that with the Shelby situation happening so recently that it makes these, like, kinds of accusations, we have to take them seriously because, well, look what happened to Shelby, it could happen to somebody else too. But at the same token, you have to, like, present a crap ton of proof before it is even legible. And that's why I originally said in my first video, for right now, I don't stand on anybody's side. And considering the fact that Katie hasn't really been trying to prove anything, says she doesn't disprove it, and the fact that in her own Discord, she says we should just believe victims because they have the story, and the people who did it don't deserve a chance to defend themselves. I mean, okay, but, like, they do deserve the right to defend themselves. I mean, sure, I mean, we've seen so many cases where, you know, the abusee was right in the past few months. I mean, there hasn't been a case in the Minecraft community where that formula hasn't went wrong, but you could be the straw that breaks the camel's back here, Katie, so I would tread on thin water here. So let's continue. Again, like he said at one point, he asked for my snap. They're good ones. Also, IG messaging is lame. What's your snap? But we did not Snapchat that much, because I don't use Snapchat. I haven't since around middle school, and the most that happened were a few pictures of him with a quesadilla. That's pretty funny. Hey, Katie, you gotta show us these pictures of George and a quesadilla, because that's the proof right there. That's everything we need to know. I do think that's a little strange, all like saying IG messaging is lame, what's your snap? I mean, I guess I could see, like, oh, this is a little strange, especially considering he's 26 and I'm 18. I would say this is a little strange, if I'm gonna be honest, that he sent me. And then I resorted back to DMs, which did not last long, and the time we all stopped interacting was around Paris TwitchCon. I walked him out to the elevator. Huh? We left at the same time. My room was on the other side of the floor in the hotel. You had a hallway of rooms on one side and the elevators connecting them, then the other hall. I was on the opposite side, therefore had to walk through the elevator room, and I didn't walk him there, in quotations. We both headed in that direction. I said, well, bye. And that's when he did the whole elevator is broken bit. Now, the whole elevator is broken bit is a joke. I mean, if I was there in that conversation and context, I don't know why that was really a joke. If I'm going to be honest, it didn't really make much sense to me. Yeah, it just doesn't, and still doesn't to me. Both sides don't really provide any great evidence of why it needs to exist in the first place, nor why does it matter. So, I don't know. The unmentioned friend, and this is someone that's very important to the story because this is the friend I've heard so much about. There was a man who was left out, who was there, I left out. He wasn't there for long. He was left early, which is why I didn't mention him. I didn't even know his name, but here's a message from this guy I've never spoken to. Now, if I had to guess, this is George's friend that he knew online, but he never mentioned in his stream, because he kept going back to this friend as being important, and if this is who I think it is, this is important. But all he really asked the situation before his left, and Right here, she has it blurred out with pink, and it's on 6/25/23, and I'm currently watching George 26 cuddle with Cotty 18. Now, to be quite frankly honest, at face value, it's really just saying that. I wish she had gone into further depths with this guy and showed some of the conversation. Maybe there's not a conversation, but I mean, yeah, I really wish we could see that. We cuddled. Oh, so cute. A lot of the touch was initiated by him, probably not realizing it. I mean, he was literally spooting me from my left as I faced Ghosty to my right. So this is true about him being with Ghosty. So what George said is true. So that's good, because truths are very good in the situation here. I mean, there really isn't much there. But, I mean, I don't know. It's just this whole consent thing, man. Something about this just does not add up at all. I'm going to continue reading through the whole cuddling part because it got cut off. A lot of the cuddling he may felt was personal, but it was just me being drunk. Everyone on the couch was doing the same thing, all drunk, close together, but I get it, I was drunk. I didn't think cuddling automatically meant it was to turn sexual. I didn't know cuddling had to turn sexual. I thought cuddling was just a mutual thing that people in a relationship did. I've got friends that do that all the time and they never turn it sexual, so I don't understand why that. I didn't know if it was an invitation. I wasn't going to push him off in front of everyone, but he took it a step further in front of everyone. All because he assumed things and assumed he had the right. Now, as a shy person, I could not speak up in front of him and let everyone else in, let alone say yes. Even if he wanted to take a step forward sexually, why do it in the open? If you're cautious about consent, why not ask? That's usually the first step. And more important, why does everything have to get taken a step further? And may I reiterate that I was drunk. And here's the thing. If you are feeling as uncomfortable as you were in that moment, why the frick did you not speak up? Like, I don't care how inebriated you are. If you can still feel that emotion, you can definitely speak it. And the part about being introverted here really doesn't make sense to me. I understand keeping the sexual life behind closed doors is a very smart thing to do. But, I mean, at the same time, if you're feeling it, you could have spoke it. You could have told George and said, hey, back off a little bit, bro. We're not chill like that. She could have moved. Yes, I got upset in the same spot, getting up to drink more, etc. Mentally, I believe I was in a room on a mentally here. Mentally. Yeah, mentally. With people on it, you just have to sit back where you were when you get up. I mean, yeah, that is the mentality most of the time. I feel like this is a school mentality right there. Mentally, I was also drunk, and even if I were to move, there would be an obvious hit to his ego, to him, and to everyone else in the room. I mean, sure, George would be hurt, but I don't think it would be the massive blow to his ego like you say right here. I feel like he'd be like, yeah, I'd be hurt, but he'd understand. I mean, George is a human, I think, and he could understand when to back off. And I didn't need to make a move. I could just deal with it the night till over, and I didn't want someone I had watched for over a while with a large following to hate or even deny me to sit near him. I didn't want to embarrass myself or him. I know it was some thought process. I acknowledge it. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think this entire thing right here, the whole point I'm trying to make, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, bro. It literally doesn't. She stayed when her friends left. I didn't make the conscious decision to choose to stay. My friend left throwing up in her hand, and I didn't know. She was so drunk she couldn't even hold her vomit and passed out in our bathroom. And the more the night went on, the drunker I was. And like I said before, I put up with it in the moment because I thought it was the price I had to pay to be around such big creators. Here's the thing, and here's what I don't understand, because partially I grew up in a good home. If you have to pay such a big price to see somebody, then why should you do it? I understand these people are huge, and I would be stoked to get to meet some of my favorite creators too. But if there was a caveat that would go against my beliefs or my views of the world or my comfort zone, for just say, I wouldn't do it. I don't care how much of the people of the world I want to meet or how much money you throw my way. If there's something that's uncomfortable or goes against my beliefs, I'm not going to do it. And I feel like that's just what she's denying to acknowledge. If she felt uncomfortable, she could have got up and said, I'm going to go use the restroom or something like that, and disassociated herself from the situation. And I know I sound like I'm victim blaming, but that's just the way I see it. Like, you could have stepped up, and I understand you're introverted and stuff, but I mean, you gotta speak up for yourself, man, sometimes. Well, you can't assume because of your body language. We had just met. Why did he think he knew me so well that he could just assume how I felt? I think that is a good point to make, because I feel like that is what most relationships are when they start out. You don't know. You simply just don't know. Like, you gotta, get around somebody. You gotta know their body language. That's why some of the best friend groups have that's why when you look around your school and see a friend group that is so open about joking, it's because they're all comfortable with each other. They all know their boundaries, and they all know what is and is not okay for them to joke about. And that's how my friend group is at school, because we all know our boundaries. We all know what we can and can't say to each other, and we know how far we can push each other, because we all dumbly joke. We joke in the open. We're okay to say some stuff to each other. And that's a good point by her to make. You didn't know me. Apparently, you didn't even know my age. You knew what I wanted. No, he assumed it's what I wanted, because why wouldn't I want something like that from him? And remind me, since I was a smile when was a smiling invitation, when was sitting next to someone an invitation, since when was being drunk an invitation? Coming back to this whole drunk thing, being drunk probably wouldn't have had a difference in this. If they weren't drunk or inebriated, I mean, sure, probably not to this degree this would have happened, but he could have still made advances. What would you say then? Oh, he wasn't drunk, he just is a creep. I mean, the drunk feels like just a way to get out of it at this point, and I'm not victim blaming. I'm just presenting what I see. And laughing I did with your hand under my clothes was out of nerves, because I didn't think cuddling was a result to that. And my shock left me speechless, because I had never been to a guy's hotel room and never done anything sexual, and never expected that cuddling meant what it did. If I didn't know if this was normal or not, you touched me for the very first time. You're a freaking grown man who knows better. Why do I have to be strong or pull away or say stop? It's my fault because I was asking for it or hinting at it, or I should have known. Now here's the thing about hinting. When you're drunk, you do not pick up on between the lines reading here. When you're drunk, you're just don't. Your brain works on autopilot. And when you autopilot, even when I autopilot at work in real life, I don't pick up the finer details of life. I don't pick up everything in just broad daylight, and sometimes I don't do that even when I'm not trying to focus or trying to not care. It's just, sometimes you don't read the finer details, and that could have been the situation. George was in there too. It just is so weird, because a lot of her story makes sense, which is why even though a lot of this evidence is being presented, I just don't know if I can, believe a lot of it too. Why do I have to be strong or pull away or say stop? It's my fault because I was asking for a hinting at it. I should have known better not to ask a simple question before doing it at his age. Silence can be consent. A head nod is a silent confirmation in order to confirm what happens. It needs a follow question that was never asked. I mean, I feel like in a sexual manner that can make sense. You obviously want to make sure you know somebody before you go below. But, I mean, it's just so hard because, I wasn't there. And that's just the thing that's so annoying, is because you can't really know, so you're having to work off of two different people's sides. So my take on all that is, I guess you could have said that, sure, but if you're not showing any signs or you're not trying to speak up for yourself, then it's gonna be hard for him to know. And how much of a drunk person supposed to consent? You're still accountable for what you say when you're drunk. If you were to say something racist and you're drunk, you still said something racist. You think I was in the power to consent a 26-year-old man to touch me because I laughed? But he was drunk too. Personally, when I'm drunk, I don't stick my hand on people's clothes on a couch in a room full of other people without asking. That's just me though. You're making it sound like he really went below. But the way he made it sound, he went above. Just up there. I'm trying to be discreet about this because I'd like to remain monetized when I get monetized, and I really don't want this to be the video that YouTube says, nah, we're just not gonna do it. So I'm trying to it be vague, but if you can paint the picture in my if you can put that picture in your mind and just kind of know where I'm going with it, then you can. Everyone in the room could verify she was comfortable. My text the day after: hi, I want to make sure you're okay. I didn't like the way George was touching, and he told me about the shirt thing, and I just want to make sure you're alright. Yes, I'm okay. It was only a bit weird, but I was drunk, so I didn't feel like doing anything to stop it or throw it away. So, it's over now. Hey, buddy, I want to double check with you that George didn't make you feel uncomfortable at all last night. He was getting really touched with you. I just want to make sure and double check, smile. Maybe, bro, I have no clue. In the moment, I was chilling, thinking of backswing a little bit. Dang, especially after verifying, so he knew I was 18. Crying face emoji. And I also don't know because I was chilling in the moment because I was drunk. I don't know. I have to ponder on it or forget about it because it's over with. Lol. I feel like these texts contradict each other because I feel like she is saying like, oh, it's over now, what can I do? Lol. But then down there she's like, I'm sweating, I'm shaking, oh my gosh, dude, this is like crazy to me. Like, oh, I made the worst mistake of my life here. And it just feels like it's so contradictory of itself. Like, it's crazy, man. Now let's get into the wristband. I want to talk about the wristband. I would like to mention another girl I didn't mention because like the other guy, she left really early into the night. I'm admitting I didn't mention her because she only tagged along one night and didn't do too much. I also didn't know her too well, and she was friends with Clay and the girl talking to him. I haven't messaged her since that night until today when she reached out. Here are some messages about from / that night. Her message to me today in the SS group chat. Okay, I'm like watching a stream for the first time right now, and I'm losing my mind because the photo he thinks is you is my hand, and then here's the screenshot down here, which I can't zoom into. It is clear that she sent the message in the chat, obviously it being her hand, no room for confusion on it being my hand once again. He was not even in the group chat to see it, only Clay, and even if he just assumed we were all 21 because one of us wasn't, all these assumptions could have been cleared up pretty quick with a question. The party we were at and the wristband talk initiated from an 18 plus party that you needed a band to enter. We had asked people around us for a wristband to enter the party, not a 21 wristband to drink. And as you see in the pictures, the 21 wristband was given by staff after seeing ID after entry. The wristbands we were asking around for and searching for was just entry to the party. Even if he thought I was asking around for a 21 wristband, that would only prove that I was underage, which is a good point. I mean, if she was asking for 21 wristbands when she wasn't and she didn't have them, I mean, that's a good point. But at the same time, with the question thing, you could have just gave suspicion. I've said this all night, bro. We didn't end up staying at the party because we couldn't get wristbands for everyone. Only a few of us got in. My one friend gave theirs to me so I could walk in and see a creator party for the first time, but I immediately after taking a video or two, knowing Ghosty and other friends were sitting outside unable to get in, with the wristbands cut off by staff as we left. I didn't even have a party wristband on or anything at the time. I met with them after the hotel room, let alone a 21 age one. I beg you all to watch my vlog from InCod documenting a video of this party and the wristbands being cut off in the vlog. And then you can see down there my wrist and the hotel wristband. And then here's another one where I said I thought she was 21. The girl who left early also sent me this message today. It is her conversation with Clint she had the night before. Excuse me, she left the room as she recalled it to a friend a few days later. I typed the message on my phone and showed it to Clay, being like, does George realize there's an 8-year difference between him and Cotty? And he looks at me deadpan and is like, I don't see why it matters. I'm like, oh, okay. He was drunk, so I did not follow him for what he may have responded with, as maybe he wasn't thinking right, as I had not been able to while I was intoxicated as well. This is also her recalling, so it could be wrong or untruthful, but I don't think she has reason to lie, simply messaging a few friends days later, especially when at the time of the text and up until I came out publicly about it, she didn't even know anything had happened that night. She left before, which is possibly true, but it's just a room to lie, and that's the problem. That night we played a game asking who was the last to lose their virginity. What a great game to play with friends that you just don't know. What a great game. This is when I said me because I was 18 and still a virgin. I really want to know where that came up because I didn't really know and it was very vague when it was mentioned. This is also when Clay chimed in to argue for his best friend and say along the lines of, well, I lost mine at 19, you aren't that old yet, so technically he would still drink, and he drank. I assume he meant he was listening, but maybe he wasn't. I remember the questions because of the text, and I sent, and because it's something I'll never forget. Yes, I know it's hard to remember a question thinking like now, but that night he couldn't have forgotten it that quick. Now it's been about 9 months, and I feel like shaky memory sometimes. Like, I mean, sure, if it's something this big, yes, you're gonna remember it. I know of big events in my life that I'll never forget too. And it's a little odd that he was very vague about that. I figured that, you know, he would remember that situation if he is trying to prove himself, or get like Dream to vouch for him on this one. Now, I know Father Dream does not have the best public reputation, but I feel like Dream could be a little bit of a useful evidence here because, you know, he was there. Yes, I know it's hard to think like back to a question like that now, but remembering like my answer just an hour / minutes prior before making a move didn't seem impossible, with him saying I didn't remember what happened that night and nitpicking my story apart, which is with his great drunken memory. I wonder how he can't remember most of the important part of it all, aka me saying my age. I don't think he's dumb, even if he was talking to someone, especially to Insta DMs, he wouldn't check for an age or at least see a bio. And yes, I think that's a good point. I'm going to bring up James Charles in this because this is the only thing I can think of that relates to that time. If you haven't heard the entire James Charles controversy, then you haven't been on YouTube at all in the past 5 years. But basically, to summarize, James Charles got in a lot of controversies with young boys because he didn't check their bio, which had their age. So I think, especially for content creators, they need to take a page out of James Charles' book and learn and say, hey, if I'm ever going to interact with somebody online, I better be checking that bio. So I will say that's kind of an L. George moment right there, if that is true. Her friends influenced her because they hate us. I wonder why they grew their hatred. Because of what happened to me, you dummies. These situations always ended in victim blame. Even if I didn't do this, she shouldn't have worn that. She shouldn't have been drinking. She was asking for it. We are embedded into society to cover for assault. It's what we're built on. It's easy to say what I should have done looking from the outside, not being one in the situation in the moment. It's also easier to think of how I could have got into the situation now, and that I'm not. And now that I'm sober, I can make clear choices. I want this situation to circle back to the original point, to make aware the reality that many girls face in this community and that many people are forced into silence. It's not petty drama, but real life people that have been affected. I just don't want to feel victims to feel that they have the power to prove over people to be believed, and that they are only valid if they had proof. I feel like that's pretty important, man. Like, proof. I mean, you can't always just take the victim's side. I understand that you're taking this from a perspective that you need to have it. But I feel like in this case, with this controversy, this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back for proof. Now, I know Twitter does not have the best and accurate of representations of exposing people, and sometimes they jump to conclusions, which that's why I still haven't made a video on the pun situation, because first off, I've been way too busy covering this drama, and second off, it's been a lot, man. It's been a very busy past few days. But I feel like that's also another reason why I haven't done it, is because I think proof is needed for everything. I feel like to prove a side of an argument, you need proof, because you can talk all day behind a screen, but it's ultimately, until you show that proof, you're just talking. You're not saying or proving your case. You're just talking. That's it. And I believe you. My story is a bit different because it was on such a wide scale with a big audience. Yes, I do not quote unquote owe it to you. Victims don't owe anything to anyone, but with my unique situation, I had to give proof nonetheless, considering the circumstances. I'll accept that people don't believe me. I've said it all there is. I also want you to note that those who make fake allegations to platform someone or seek out attention are scum. You guys are the people that make others choose to never, or why people never come out with their stories. You are the reason there is distrust in coming forward about these situations. I hope you rot. I find it punny when people say victims do this for clout, because I can promise you anyone who has come forward about something like this knows a large sum of what you receive is endless hate, and it's all you become known for. It's a price you have to pay to speak up. I want to continue my content, music videos, and supporting you guys. I don't want to let this define or stop me simply because it happened to me, but there's a lot more to be said before I can make peace, and I don't know how long it will take for me to return to the internet once all has been said. I wish you all the best for healing. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video here. I really don't know at this point what's going to happen. I said I'm not going to make another video on this until Caddy's response came out. and her response came out sooner than I actually thought it ever would. But really, at this point, I don't know what's left to talk about in the situation. I mean, obviously, I have some stuff that I really just don't think I can get into on the internet-wise about everything. And I mean, it's not hard to see why. I mean, this entire situation just seems, it's just almost back and forth like he said, she said at this point. But that's all for me. So I really want to know what you guys think about this in the comments below. We had a lovely discussion on the last two about all of this. So I really want to know down below. Anyways, that's all for me. So if you guys just, got informed from this, and yeah, I'll see you.